Whew. I wish you could have all been sitting on the front row and watched Gregory when she was singing. You were in a trance, my brother. You were just like, wow. It's beautiful. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. You know, there was this important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do the job. Now, anybody could do the job, but nobody did it. Now, this made somebody quite angry because he thought it was everybody's job. Now, everybody thought anybody could do it. Nobody realized that everybody wasn't going to do it, and everybody blamed somebody for doing what anybody could have done. Today, I'm talking about how to be an everybody, and don't be the nobody. Let's get the job done. And it really is a cooperative universe that we live in. But one of the challenges of life is that we are addicted to duality. Hello, my name is Steve. I'm a duality addict. We learn it early in life. I mean, think about it. Me, myself, and I. Who's that belong to? Me, myself, and I. That's mine. I mean, when I was a kid, and my brother was a little younger than me, he knew about numbers in terms of amounts, but he didn't know quantity on the coins. And so it was about me, myself, and I. So when we would count out coins, I just okay, here's 5 for you, and I give him 5 pennies. And here's 2 for me, and I get 2 nickels. Here's 7 for you, I give him 7 nickels. Here's 1 for me, it's a quarter. You know, everybody wins. I didn't know that early on. I was addicted to duality. I wanted to win. I wanted to win. It was interesting how hard it was to get past that. And later I did. I mean, I can remember as we got older, I started to understand this concept a little bit. But that was at the era that Michael was reaching that point in his life where he wanted to win. People would come over to the house and play games. We loved playing games in our house. And we would have these games that people would come to play, and they were not familiar with some of the games that we played. So my way was to teach everybody how to play the game, including the strategy, so that the playing of the game could be more fun. And this would make Michael quite angry because he would say, you teach them how to win. I want to win. Don't teach them all the good stuff. Because he wanted to win. He was an early on duality addict. You see, we have all these trained perceptions that we're dealing with. If somebody runs into you in your car, and then they get out of their car, and they are not contrite, and they're actually somewhat angry, like you did something wrong, like you stopped. We get totally upset about that. They hand you your insurance card, and you're totally freaked out. I'm gonna have a hard time collecting my money, yada 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 yada. And we're already trained about how we're going to perceive these things, instead of understanding that in a unitary universe, it may be that there's something involved in this accident. Maybe it's a meeting of the minds is supposed to take place. Maybe there's something I'm supposed to learn about this, but I'm already set up by something I have agreed to long before I even came to that situation. This week, it happened to me. I'm working around. I'm trying to get out of the house in a hurry. We were on our way to somewhere. I don't remember what it was. And I'm cleaning up the dishes, and I'm really rushing, and all of a sudden, I broke one of these favorite bowls that we have in the house. I only chipped it, and Johanna was very graceful about it. She goes, oh, it's okay, even though it was one of her special bowls. Sorry. But what I took from that was, oh my God, I was racing, I wasn't present, I needed to just slow down. Even if you take as much time as possible to do the dishes, have you ever set the clock on it? You know, it only takes like 10 to 12 minutes to do a big old sink full of dishes. But for some reason, I felt like if I was moving faster, right, it would happen faster. It's still going to take 6 to 12 minutes to do the dishes. Slow down and take it easy. It's a unitive experience. We're living in wholeness and in oneness, you know. We don't have to stick to these trained perceptions. Deepak Chopra says, each of us needs to see that we are living the after effects of someone else's old choices. It's a powerful idea. someone else's old choices. We grow up learning all these things about how we're supposed to be, the me, myself, and I, protect myself, let my ego be in charge of everything versus someone else's ego. And I'm not an ego basher. I believe the ego is a very important thing to have. It keeps you from stepping out in traffic, you know. The ego is a very important thing to have, but I am a right sizer of the ego. I think we need to right size it so that we can be in this place where we can take a look at whether we're living our life by the after effects of someone else's older choices, or if we are making new choices that better benefit our own lives. Making new choices that may allow us to be a party to the everybody wins, so that we don't have to be mad at nobody for not doing what should have been done in the first place. So we need to break our duality addictions, break this idea of winners and losers. And in the idea of winners and losers, as Johanna was talking about, the win-win situation in that Stephen Covey piece, we're so stuck on the idea of failure and success. Failure and success. But you see, in the end, failure is really nothing more than a mental attitude. Dr. Holmes talks about this when he says, failure occurs only if the loss of that thing takes our enthusiasm, our courage, our zest for life, our faith, our conviction, and our happiness from us. That is failure indeed. See, a lot of times, I mean, you think about, I think is it Edison or maybe it was Henry Ford? Oh, well, Edison, you know, he liked to fail so he could succeed at the next thing and finally find the right filament for the light bulb. But I seem to remember that Henry Ford once bought a whole bunch of failed experiments so that he could study what went wrong so that he would get it right the next time around. He was excited about this, you know. So for him, failure was not failure at all. It actually gave him zest for life. He was courageous enough to step off into somebody else's failure and see how that could work out for him. Another great thing he did, tangent number one, another great thing he did was he ran this company, but he knew that he didn't know everything about the company. And this one time a reporter came in to ask him a bunch of stuff about Ford Motor Company. He says, give me all your questions. So he wrote down all the questions. Yeah. And after the reporter was done, he put his little speaker on and he says, bring me John so-and-so and Sam such and Sarah so-and-so into my office right now. They were the ones that had the answers to the questions. He knew he didn't have all the answers, you know. And that's success right there. Success to know that I don't have to have all the answers. We're living in a cooperative universe where everything's going to happen, and it's not always my job. Sometimes it's the other guy's job to get something done. Sometimes it's everybody's job that we want to work toward. And keep our zest and keep our enthusiasm. When something doesn't go your way, it's a chance to take a look at how that happened and even how you react to it. What is my reaction? Why am I so upset that I failed in this moment? And go back, and I guarantee you, if you take the time to look at how a supposed failure freaks you out and can take the time to go back in time, you may discover, I know I do this on a regular basis, I discover that the part that gets me all freaked out is I am still living on some choices that I got from my family of origin, or some choices that I made because of a teacher in school that I admired, that I wanted to impress, or somebody like that. I mean, you know, the people pleaser in me is still looking for healing. It's an incredible experience to take a chance to just be vulnerable enough to look at yourself and see, what happened to my happiness as a result of this downturn? Why did I turn what could be a very positive event into a negative event by thinking of it as failure? There are no failures. They're just opportunities for a new success, to turn things around in another way. Really, what comes up as a failure a lot of times is a really wonderful stop sign that says, stop walking in that direction, dude. Turn around and go somewhere else, and something better will show up for you in the end. And that something better happens on a regular basis in the universe. I've been reading this book called Non-Zero, the Biological Destiny of the Human Species, or something like that. It's got a super long title, which will come up in just a minute. Well, there it is. Non-zero, the logic of human destiny. Right. And he talks about this thing called non-zero sumness. It's a long book, and it's about biology and human development and the society and civilization and stuff. We might want to get it in the bookstore if you like reading long, heavy, deep books. If you don't like reading long... One? Just buy one. Tell you what, I have one, I'll loan you mine, and I've got it highlighted, so all the good parts are already showing up. But in this book, he talks about the idea, and it was touched on in Johannes' piece. He talks about the zero-sum game versus the non-zero-sum game. The zero-sum game, we already know, it's the one player's fate is determined by another player's fate. Michael, why are you going to let them win? I want to win. The zero-sum game. Chess and badminton and all the things that happen in the Olympics, zero-sum games. But the Olympics themselves are non-zero-sumness. The Olympics, everybody in the world tunes in to watch this, and there's so much benefit going on, and all these countries and cultures get to come together. Isn't that interesting? In the middle of a zero-sum experience, you have this non-zero-sumness that goes on. A merchant and a customer. That's a non-zero-sum situation. It's a cooperative situation. The customer couldn't get what they need without the store, and the store couldn't sell what they want without the customer. So there's this beneficial activity taking place. Or when my brother and I were playing, it was a non-zero-sumness because being with our friends allowed us to have this wholeness experience of joy of hanging out with our friends, you see. So childhood playmates, that's non-zero-sum. And at one point, even legislatures was non-zero-sum. At one point. I don't know what happened with that one, but it needs to come back. Let's know for non-zero-sumness. In the non-zero-sum game, one person's gain is not necessarily another person's loss. And there's this overlap that takes place. Non-zero-sumness is a kind of potential. A potential for overall gain, for overall loss, depending on how the game is played. And that's the really important part, depending on how the game is played. So frequently, we play the game where we're looking for where we end up with an overall loss when we had the opportunity for an overall gain. And in the non-zero-sumness, what you're doing is you're spreading the risk over time, you're adding efficiency to things, you're increasing the benefits, you're lessening exploitation, but it takes trust and it takes communication. In this story, he talks about how biology has moved forward in a non-zero-sum way. Like dinosaurs had scales, and then they developed this ability to fly. And so the scales switched and became feathers. If you look at this pattern of feathers on a bird, you'll see it's very similar to the pattern of scales on the dinosaur. That was a non-zero-sum transition. And here's something really interesting. The two, I think they're proteins, the two proteins that work at the DNA level to make the wings form is one protein, and to make the wings fly is another protein, another set of DNA instructions, right? Those same two instructions, those same two elements exist in the human body, and they work in the area of the heart. One of them, the one that makes the wings form, that one makes the heart form in the human species. And the other one that makes the wings flap, that makes the wings beat in the heart. I mean, that makes the heart beat. Isn't that interesting? So when we sing a song about our wings, our hearts lifting up, it's actually happening. Deepak Chopra talks about that. He says, in our hearts, we feel the impulse to fly, to break free of boundaries. And you do that sometimes. Oh, my heart feels so light in this moment. What is that? That is a non-zero-sum biological development working in your own experience of life. The win-ness, the win-win situation that allows a bird to fly, allows your heart to beat, and gives you an emotional, metaphysical lift of your spirits all at the same time. See, this is the beautiful thing about the universe and its creativity. It is so awesomely creative that it mixes all of its elements together for our benefit. And we actually are that benefit. We are that benefit of the universe, allowing it to answer the questions it has always asked of itself, but could not do so because it did not have a voice until it created the human species. And we give voice to the universe. See, this win-win idea, this non-zero-sumness, is conducive to cooperation. And the universe is conducive to cooperation. It self-generates positive outcomes out of the things that happen. And that's the way that we can live our lives. We can generate positive outcomes from our behavior, and we can avoid negative outcomes. This idea of global warming. You know, and somebody the other day was talking about, this summer wasn't all that bad. I don't believe in that global warming. Well, did you know, weather fact, this summer, we broke more records than any summer ever in history. Wow. Yeah. Did you notice? Yes. Really? You guys need to sleep more. Because the records that we broke were overnight high, low temperatures. Have you noticed the nights have been kind of warm? We've had the warmest nighttime summer we've ever had on record. That's an evidence of global warming. If you're just still out there and thinking, I don't know. Think again, dude. Non-zero sumness. It's a principle-based universe. And the sweet thing about it is that as we recognize it, we can work toward the positive outcomes. The Chinese food sour thing about it is, the universe doesn't need our human cooperation for the principles to continue to work. This is where the everybody win concepts comes in. See, we have consciousness and we can choose to ignore it or we can choose to pay attention. It's where we place. How many of you heard your parents, I can hear it right now, son, do you have selective hearing? I'm talking to you. We do. We have selective hearing, we have selective consciousness, and we choose sometimes to ignore the opportunities for the everybody win-win situation. I hope that from today we can begin to look and expand our vision and our view and look at some of those after effect choices that we've held on to. Look at some of the ways of being that we're doing in life and begin to selectively choose a wider type of vision, a wider type of outcome. And it comes really simply, and I'll talk about it a little bit in the workshop today, it comes from recognizing our relationship to the divine, that there is no separation. We talk so much about this, but how many times do we actually realize it and live from it? Dr. Holmes was so strong in this. He says, let us learn that today the kingdom of God, the kingdom of good, the kingdom of God in all its fullness and beauty and power is here. It's here. And we must identify with it. See, that's the thing. We must identify with this idea. It's so easy to think of God as out there. But go back to the flapping of the wings and the formation of your heart. That is a universal win-win that's included inside of you, that's part of an intelligent process that's taking place in the universe itself, coming to fruition. See, that's happening through you, as you, because of you, as a part of you, because you are a part of it. We must really get this idea. And it's so hard because words immediately put something in a container and separate and divide and make boundaries and distinctions. And that's very important for understanding. But also what's important is to break through that understanding into this space of oneness and complete acceptance of our divine connection to spirit. That we are it. And it's so hard, and particularly talk about old after effects that are hard to let go of. Try this one on. I am God. Whew. You say that to some folks that go to church every Sunday and they will want to burn you. They want to put you on a stake somewhere. What do you mean you're God? Well, I mean that, there's only one life and that life is God life, and if there's only one life and I'm alive, then that means I'm God. What are you talking about, Willis? But if you can really get that, now I'm not talking about you don't want to get like the guru that went up into the mountain. He goes up into the mountain because he's gonna find his spirit, And he sits up in this mountain until he feels nirvana, and he gets it. He really gets it. And so now he's walking down the mountain, and here comes a yak coming up the mountain with some yak herders, and he's trying to get out of the way, and he steps in some yak. You know what? And he goes, "Damn it!" He has to go back up the mountain again. Because he forgot in that moment that actually he was just the divine. Or the other guy, there was another one, I think it was his cousin, who had done the same thing, and then when he's coming down the mountain, he's running into some elephants. And the elephant rider, the herder on the elephant, riding on the back of the elephant, and don't ever ride on the back of an elephant in Austin, Texas in the summertime. I did that for a circus parade one time. You know how elephants cool themselves off? They take their snout, they put it back here on their back, and they go and then I had to do a speech. I was not feeling godlike in that moment. But, so here's this guy, and he's coming down the mountain, right? And the elephant rider is saying, Get out of the way. And the guy's coming down the mountain goes, I'm God. Why should God get out of the way of God? And he says, get out of the way. I'm God. Why should God get out of the way of God? And that elephant just trampled him. Then he went back to see his guru and he says, I thought you said I was God. He says, yeah, but didn't you hear the elephant herder telling you to get out of the way? So we do have to sometimes get out of the way. Okay. So Mother Teresa was going across a river on a horse. Too soon. But the point I'm trying to make, you had to be here. No, you didn't. I'm sorry you were here for that. The point I'm trying to make is to just really nail this idea in our minds that there is one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. It's a simple 1, 2, 3. And the more we can get into that, the more power we can have in our lives, and the easier it will be for us to get ourselves into the everybody wins scenario of life. And the more it allows us to be the creative beings that we really are. Because you see, we are creative. We only have one project in life, and that is reality making. And here's what I'm talking about. My friend Carol McDonald, God rest her, she used to say to him all the time, thank you for allowing me to feel love. I think I've talked about this before. When you say I love you, it's nice to the other person, but you're having the experience of love. Every experience that you are having is happening inside of you. Everything that you see, even see me right now, I may not actually be here. I may be a figment of your imagination. In fact, neuroscientists will tell you that I am a figment of your imagination. You are looking here, and your eyes are taking in registrations of light and vibration, and then taking that into your brain and turning it into little chemicals that are shooting off with, actually into electricity, that's shooting off into chemicals that then shoot off into electricity again, that lands somewhere else in your brain, that redeciphers all of that and decides to make up the idea of Steve standing in front of you. You see, we are reality makers all the time. They're actually, when you have a dream, and I had one last night, I had a dream that was so real, I woke up and I still thought I was in China. I mean, your dreams are just, there's something that allows us to say, well, I'm awake now, so this must be reality. But when you're in a dream, it can certainly feel like reality, can it? Because it's still happening in here. It's happening in here. We're creating this all the time. And so the idea here is to know and understand that, as Chopra says here, you are not in the world is in you. You are not in the world is in you. And as a result of that, the power to fix, change, transform, uplift, and support the world is also in you. It's in each and every one of us. The power to create an everybody wins scenario exists in each and every one of us. It's like David White's poem, Everything is Waiting for You. Everything is waiting for you, for your reality to form in a way that presents a world that works for everyone. And if your desires, if what you want for life has any element of harm for another, we're not in the space of working for everyone. We're not in the space of everybody wins. And we do have that ability to be in that space where everybody wins. And then what happens is we begin by understanding our identification with the divine. My good buddy Michael Bernard Beckwith says, willingly enter into the stream of love and watch how you are carried by the unstoppable dynamic of God's love calling you to be bigger than you ever thought you could be. If you could step into that flow of the love of the divine, you will be called to a higher calling than you even realized you could possibly be. And one day somebody will say something to you, you changed my life when you said so-and-so. And you just said it as a passing thing and didn't even realize that it was a life-changing thought or a life-changing thing. That's the kind of power we have, and that's the ability we have to create a world where everybody wins. Anybody in here can be the somebody that makes it so that everybody wins. And so it is. So this is why I wrote this up here. Here we go. Expressing and experiencing my good lifts the tide for everybody and creates a world that works for all. Get busy, folks. Let's pray. So it is in this moment that I recognize my divine presence working through me as Spirit unfolding. And I know that Spirit unfolds in each and every person here this day. I'm so grateful for that knowledge. So grateful for that awareness. There is this heart feeling responding to the original beat of the universe that resides within my being, and I know it resides in each and every one of us. We are that experience of life itself, having this experience in life that allows us the opportunity to lift the tide for all. And we do that as we listen to the divine guidance, as we step into our intuitive voice and allow that to be the motivator of our actions. So in this moment, I affirm that I am hearing the intuitive voice, that I am following through with the right action that flows from that voice, that I bring love and peace and harmony and joy into the world. I speak a word over our prayer box right now, knowing that every prayer that is in the box is already finding its intentionality realized through the law and the love of the universe. There is a voice and a presence that hears the need and answers the call, always willing. For we live in a cooperative, conducive, cohesive, creative universe that is always saying yes. So in this time, at this space, I get my thoughts right. I align my consciousness with the divine, and that way I know that all of the intentions that are flowing forth from me do no harm and do only good, for they are motivated by love. If you feel it and you believe it with me now, as I release this prayer into the law, affirm it with me by saying, and so it is. Thank you.